designandmake.com. Welcome to a special tips and tricks video for Design and Make. We're a lot like you. Everybody here at Vectric is stuck at home. So we know what it feels like to be looking for things to keep us inspired. And so we wanted to create some content, some videos, some tips and tricks, some projects that we could give to you to help keep you going through this very difficult time. And today I'm going to share with you some tips and tricks that I use all the time with my Design and Make content when I'm creating new layouts, new hacks of the week, doing all kinds of other things. Now, some people will think these are pretty basic, but for those of you that are new to Vectric or are looking for just a nice way to add a little bit of finishing touch to your layouts, then I might have some of those answers for you right now. Take a watch. If you have any questions at all, then we're going to have a live Q&A session on Instagram Live on April the 1st at 3 p.m. UK time, where I'll take your questions. Now, it might be a little difficult for us to answer your questions on the fly, so if you have any questions after you watch this video, please put them below or share them on one of our social media platforms, and we will certainly get to those and get you some answers, at least the best that we can. So let me get right into it now. So we're going to jump into VCarve desktop, and I'm going to create a brand new file. In this case, it's going to be 12 by 10. That doesn't matter at all. And we're just going to click OK. And I'm going to go to my Clipart tab, and we'll be using models to demonstrate this from our Wildlife expansion pack #1. Wildlife is really popular with all of our customers, so you probably have some of these kicking around on your PC right now. So in this case, we're going to start out with our mountain scene #1. And to get started, we're going to size this up by holding down my Shift key and sizing up to being the right size that I want. Now you'll notice that I do all this sort of organically. I just kind of size and fit things where they belong, and that works out really well for me. And we're going to go ahead and bring in a deer. Now we're going to use the deer #6. And in this particular demonstration, I'm going to double click on him, and he'll pop into our job. And if I go ahead and take a look just at the 3D view and hold down my Shift key, I'm going to size that deer to fit into my scene. Now you'll see that there's this green silhouette. That means that over in my modeling tab, that this deer is being merged into my mountain scene. So if I just grab that, I can move it to where I think I'd like it to be. In this case, I want it to be right there. Now, this is where we're going to get into a few little tips and tricks to make him fit a little bit better in there. Just going to make sure that I'm looking at the back hooves, and I'm looking at the silhouette right now. I know it's hard to tell, but there we are. I'm all lined up there nice. If I go back to my 2D view and I zoom in, you'll see that those back hooves line up on top of that ridge, which is great, and the front hooves are sitting on the front side of that ridge. Now, how am I going to get that deer to fit better in there? Well, if I select it, and I go up here and I choose my properties. Now, this is one of the ways I can adjust the properties of my model. And for right now, I'm going to be adjusting my shape height and my base height to bring that up through that mountain. So let's start off with our base height, and we're going to add some base to it. And you'll see that as I move that up, my deer is slowly poking through that mountain. Now, what I'm going to be looking for is anything that looks funny, but also any weak spots. So you'll see that these little antlers up here will not survive probably in the end. So I'm going to do myself a favor, and I'm going to size it down a little bit smaller. I'm going to make sure that that deer is sitting nicely on top of that mountain, and that looks great. I like the size of him. That's great, except for I don't like the way that his hooves here are interacting with this rock. So what can I do to fix that? So I'm going to close down this component properties. And because I want to do this all in the 3D view, with that deer selected, I can go ahead and change my component properties by using this floating properties dialog box. And I got to that by clicking on this solid blue button at the bottom. And that brings up the majority of my controls here. Not all of them, but the majority of them that I need. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring him up a little bit higher because I see that I'm losing his ear here. So let's just go ahead and make this 2 instead. That looks good. Take a look. I'm still pretty happy with that. Actually, I'm going to go down and make that 185. And there we go. That's a little bit better. That way these antlers aren't too proud of that. That's great. And now let's just go ahead and fix the hooves. So if I go and I fade my deer, so what this is going to do is it's going to take 2 anchor points, and it's going to leave the first anchor point alone, and it's going to fade between that point and the next point the percentage that I tell it to. So if I look straight down and zoom in using my scroll wheel, I can set my first anchor point here, my second anchor point there, and by default it does it 50%, and that's too much. Let's change it to 35, and it's still too much. Let's go 25. That looks pretty good. Let's go with 30. See what that gives us. Oh, sorry, let's make that 20. Went the wrong direction. There we have it. And there we go. That looks pretty good. So by using a bit of tilt and fade, I'm going to have to bring up my base height a bit because I'm losing that ear. Now, this is my total secret top tip for you on how I can do this. I was fading that full component. Well, what if I want to selectively fade only part of that component? So let's reset our anchor points. And I only want to fade from below the belly of my deer to the bottom of the hooves. So I can drop an anchor point there and there. And then what I'm doing is I'm actually only fading between those 2 points, and I retain all of my detail that I have. So I can change this to be 25, and that looks pretty good. I'm really quite happy with that. So there we go. So that's only one model or one component into that that full scene. But if we go ahead and hide those, and I bring in my assembled layout that I was given with this project, and I size it up to be the right size, we can have a quick look, and you can see where I've done the same thing by just adjusting my shape heights for this bear, making sure that his feet and so on were sitting on top of that rock. So that was a combination of base height and shape height. I did the same with this moose, and the same over here with these deer, but I had to use that selective fading to fade in his legs so that they end up tucking in on this ridge like they are there. So there's a couple tips on how you can use your clip art. Now don't forget that on April the 1st at 3 o'clock UK time in the afternoon on Instagram, I'll be doing a live Q&A, and I'd happily answer any of the questions you have or just be there to chat with you about anything Design and Make or anything Vectric for that matter. Anyway, thanks so much. Hope that was enjoyable, and I can't wait to see you on April the 1st.